In an age of titans, when Rome was a colossus bestriding the world, one woman dared to stand against it. Not with armies alone, but with a weapon far more potent: her intellect. This is the story of the last Pharaoh of Egypt, a queen whose name has echoed through millennia, shrouded in myth and legend. This is the story of Cleopatra VII. Born in 69 BC into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that had ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, Cleopatra was no ordinary princess. From a young age, she was immersed in a world of cutthroat politics, where sibling rivalry often ended in bloodshed. Unlike her predecessors who clung to their Greek heritage, Cleopatra embraced the culture of her kingdom. She was the first of her dynasty to learn the Egyptian language, a move that endeared her to her people and showcased her sharp political instincts. She saw herself not just as a ruler, but as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Her early reign was a storm of conflict. Exiled by her own brother and co-ruler, Ptolemy XIII, a teenage Cleopatra refused to be a pawn in someone else's game. She knew she needed an ally, a powerful one. And as fate would have it, the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar, was sailing towards her shores. The story of their first meeting is legendary. Smuggled past her brother's guards and into the palace at Alexandria, rolled up in a carpet, she was presented to Caesar. This wasn't the act of a desperate girl, but a calculated gamble by a brilliant strategist. Caesar, a man accustomed to power, was captivated not just by her beauty, but by her audacity, her intelligence, and her command of multiple languages. He saw in her a partner, a leader worthy of Egypt's throne. With Caesar's military might behind her, Cleopatra reclaimed her throne. But their alliance was more than political. It blossomed into a romance that produced a son, Caesarion, whom Cleopatra proclaimed Phaetoras's heir. She journeyed to Rome, not as a conquered subject, but as a visiting queen, living in Caesar's villa and dazzling Roman society. She dreamed of a new world order, a grand Eastern empire ruled Shkti, her and Caesar, with their son as the inheritor of it all. It was a vision of breathtaking ambition, one that would unite the East and West under their dynasty. But history is a cruel mistress. In 44 BC, the Ides of March arrived. Caesar was assassinated on the floor of the Roman Senate, and with his death, Cleopatra's Roman dream crumbled. She fled back to Egypt, her future and the future of her kingdom hanging by a thread. Rome was plunged into civil war, a chaotic power vacuum from which 2 men would emerge: Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, and his loyal general, Mark Antony. Once again, Cleopatra needed to secure her kingdom's fate. She was summoned by Mark Antony to Tarsus. Learning from her past, she staged another grand entrance. She sailed up the river Cydnus in a magnificent barge adorned with purple sails and silver oars, dressed as Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Antony, who saw himself as the embodiment of Dionysus, was utterly enchanted. The political alliance they forged was cemented by a legendary love affair, one Itihas's most passionate and enduring romances. For over a decade, Antony and Cleopatra ruled the East from Alexandria, a city solusoins in luxury, culture, and power. They had 3 children together and lived as divine monarchs. Antony, infatuated, bestowed vast territories upon Cleopatra and their children in a grand ceremony known as the Donations of Alexandria. To the Egyptians, it was the glorious dawn of a new, powerful empire. But in Rome, it was seen as treason. Octavian, a master of propaganda, seized the opportunity. He painted Cleopatra as a dangerous, decadent foreign sorceress who had bewitched a noble Roman general. He declared Antony a traitor to Rome, turning public opinion toxically against him. The final confrontation was inevitable. The battle lines were drawn. This wasn't just a war between 2 men. It was a clash of civilizations, a fight for the soul of the Roman world. In 31 BC, the fleets of Octavian and the combined forces of Antony and Cleopatra met at the Battle of Actium. The conflict was a disaster. Miscommunication and strategic errors led to a crushing defeat. Antony and Cleopatra managed to escape the blockade and flee back to Egypt, but their armies and their cause were lost. The end came swiftly. Octavian's legions marched on Alexandria. Mark Antony, receiving a false report of Cleopatra's death, fell on his own sword, dying in her arms in her mausoleum. Now Cleopatra was alone, her kingdom conquered, her lover dead, and her children's fates uncertain. Octavian intended to parade her through the streets of Rome in chains, a living trophy of his victory. But Cleopatra would never grant him that satisfaction. She was a queen, the daughter of a long line of pharaohs, and she would die as one. The exact method of her death remains a mystery, but the legend says she chose the bite of an asp, a symbol of divine royalty in ancient Egypt. It was her final act of defiance, a carefully orchestrated exit that denied her enemy his ultimate triumph and cemented her legacy forever. With her death, the 3,000-year-old age of the pharaohs ended, and Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. So, who was Cleopatra? A manipulative seductress, as Roman propaganda would have us believe, or a brilliant, multilingual scholar, a cunning politician, and a fiercely protective mother who used every tool at her disposal to safeguard her kingdom in a world dominated by men and Roman steel? The truth is, she was all of these and more. She was a survivor, a leader, and a queen who dared to dream of an empire that could rival Rome. Her story isn't just a tragedy, it's a testament to the power of Mott woman, who, for a brief, shining moment, held the fate of the world in her hands. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the past. If you were captivated by Cleopatra's incredible story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the lives of history's most fascinating figures. Let us know in the comments which historical ruler you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, keep exploring.